In today's special episode of Tech Talks Daily, it was recorded live in Palo Alto during the IT Press Tour, which is an event that brings together top international journalists and thought leaders to collaborate and get a behind-the-scenes view with some of the companies shaping the future of enterprise technology. And as a guy that attends a lot of events, the IT Press Tour is unlike any other. It's not about vendor booths or marketing decks. It's about direct access to decision makers and in-depth conversations about what's really happening across the tech ecosystem. From cloud infrastructure to AI at the edge, it's where strategy meets engineering, and where I also get to hear the raw, unfiltered truth behind the tech. And today I'm joined by Amanda Lee, the Global Communications Lead at a company called DDN. And they are at the heart of data-intensive innovation. And DDN is powering some of the world's most demanding environments, from AI model training and autonomous vehicles to healthcare breakthroughs and financial analytics. But Amanda's perspective goes far beyond speeds and feeds. She brings a human lens to data infrastructure that bridges technical depth with narrative clarity. So in our conversation, which was recorded at a Starbucks in Palo Alto, we explored over a coffee what it really means to communicate innovation in the age of AI, how storytelling is evolving in high-performance computing, and why aligning technology with purpose is more important than ever. So whether you are in enterprise IT, media, leadership, or just curious about technology in the communications industry, I think there should be something for everyone here about navigating change, complexity, and opportunity. All sat outside in the glorious sunshine enjoying a coffee. So, what happens when infrastructure becomes invisible and the outcomes speak for themselves? Let's find out by getting Amanda onto the podcast now. So, a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So my name is Amanda Lee, and I'm the Global Communications Lead at DDN, where we focus on shaping the narrative around data intelligence and some of the world's most intensive organizations. I spent nearly 2 decades helping high-growth tech companies translate complexity into clarity. And with that, I drive visibility, trust, and market leadership for the organizations I work with. Whether it's AI, high-performance computing, or edge innovation, I work to ensure that the story is not just about the tech, but about the people and the possibility it unlocks. So really trying to humanize the brand.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me here. We're outside in Palo Alto as part of the IT Press Tour. And for listeners that are unfamiliar with your background, can you tell me a little bit more about your role at DDN and also how you shape the company's communication strategy in this increasingly age of AI? It's everywhere right now, right?
Yes, it is. It definitely is. So I talked a little bit about how important it is to not just focus on the tech, but focus on the human side of the brand. And DDN is really at the core of data intelligence. So think about building massive systems that handle massive volumes of data at speed and scale. And that's really what's powering the breakthroughs in AI, autonomous driving, healthcare research, financial modeling, and more. So our customers are really facing unprecedented data demands and power demands. And we help them manage, store all of that and give them real-time insights to make those decisions faster, smarter, and train those models better so that they can innovate fearlessly.
And as I said, we're here for the IT Press Tour, but recently at Dell Technologies World, you highlighted the convergence of AI, edge, and infrastructure. So I'm curious, what stood out to you most at the event, and how does it reflect where the industry's heading, do you think?
That's a really, really good question, because I'm constantly looking at what's being talked about at these different events. And what really stood out most to me was that unified messaging around the convergence, because DDN's been saying this for a while. We've been positioning this for, I believe, more than a decade. So it's no longer AI versus edge versus infrastructure. So these domains are fusing. AI is moving closer to edge, infrastructure is definitely becoming more intelligence. And then there's data that's the common thread binding it all together. And that's what we do at DDN. Where, really seeing the industry finally catching up to the reality that our customers have been living for years. And the real innovation happens when these silos break down. That's my point of view.
And one of the things I wanted to shine a light on today, and I think we should shout about, is DDN supports some of the world's most data-intensive organizations. So how are you helping connect infrastructure stories to real-world impact across so many different sectors? And by that, I mean everything from healthcare to finance and AI, of course.
For sure. And this is really where it hits home with humanizing the brand. So our work isn't just about petabytes and performance. It's about purpose. In healthcare, it's about enabling faster drugs or real-time analysis. In finance, it's about high-speed analytics and that can detect fraud in real time or inform trading, better, smarter trading. In AI, we're just supporting everything from climate models to personalized customer experiences. And the connective tissues is really that infrastructure that I talked about, that performance under pressure. And so my role is to make sure that we just don't talk about the product or a launch or something like that, but we're really telling these transformational stories because there's so many of them that we get to have an impact on.
When I was doing a little research on you before you joined me on the podcast today, one of the things I was really delighted to read is that you've written that AI is only as powerful as the data and intelligence behind it. And that is something I'm always shouting about on here. We don't talk about it enough. So how would you explain this to audiences outside of the technical bubble for those business leaders listening?
For sure. Great question. So I often use this analogy, and I believe I've heard our leadership use this analogy as well. So I've really adopted it. But AI is like a sports car. It might be fast and shiny, but without fuel, which is the data, and a GPS system, which is intelligence, it's going nowhere fast, right? So you need high quality, well-governed, accessible data and the infrastructure to move it efficiently. Otherwise, even the most advanced models, they're going to stall. And increasingly, it's not just about having data, it's about making that data actionable in real time at the edge securely.
And you've also shared your thoughts on AI augmenting, not replacing human creativity, especially in communications. And this is a hot topic right now. We've seen all the job losses, etc., but we seldom hear about the positive side here. So how are you personally using AI in your work? And where do you draw the line between support and maybe over-reliance and that danger of losing your own critical thinking, maybe?
I cannot live without my AI tools. So I run the PR, the AR, the social, the customer advocacy, and the IR programs at DDN. And we have a very small team. So I really view AI as a creative co-pilot. I use it to brainstorm headlines, summarize technical content that I need to learn more about, or really just surface trends across competitive messaging. So, what are the headlines today? What does that mean to what we're talking about in market? Where should we be positioning DDN? What should we be writing about? Really just those cross-web informational education, right? But always I put the human lens on the final product. So even though I'm gathering some of this data and I'm pulling these stories, or maybe I have it summarize something for me, I'm always making sure it's authentic and that it's my writing at the end of the day. So that's where the judgment and empathy and the nuances come in, especially in communication. The line for me is this, really, AI can support and craft, but it does not replace the conscience.
100% with you. And also, inside and outside of DDN, you're passionate about lifting women up in tech. Again, something I think we need to shout about today. So why do you think this needs to happen or what do you think needs to happen to drive real change, not just in leadership, but in representation and equity? Because there's been a lot of documented changes and almost steps backwards. But where do we go from here?
This is really such an interesting question, and one that I do get asked a lot. I've been working in technology and communications for 20 years. And before that, I worked on Capitol Hill as a communications director for several different members of Congress. And I believe it's really the same across the board. And It's really just we need to work from mentorship to sponsorship. So it's not about guidance, it's about advocacy. So women need a seat at the table, no matter how uncomfortable it is for some of the male leadership. That's just what I'm going to say. I'm going to be really blunt about it. We need leaders who pull out the chairs for women. We also need to normalize flexibility, rethink how we measure performance, and call out bias when we see it. Right? So representation isn't about the numbers. It's not just about the numbers. It's about visibility, voice, and value. We need to ensure that our women are valued across the team and that we actually are showing that.
Yeah, completely agree. And here on the IT press tour, there's a lot of European journalists. And one topic that I'm hearing again and again is data sovereignty and transparency and trust, all increasing concerns, especially in Europe, where there seems to be a movement in some quarters of moving data away from US big tech firms. I'm curious, how do you approach these themes in your messaging while also balancing innovation and responsibility?
Yeah, I really take this to heart because trust isn't just a buzzword to me. It's business imperative. In our messaging, we emphasize responsible innovation. So that's performance and protection, and they are not mutually exclusive. So we talk a little bit about how our solutions help customers stay compliant, secure, and in control of their own data. That's really paramount, especially in regulated sectors. Transparency, especially around how data is handled and used, builds long-term credibility.
And obviously communications is your area of expertise. That's where your passion is. Any advice that you'd give to anybody listening, especially if they are a communication professional, they're navigating AI's rapid rise, not just to keep up, but to maybe lead effectively in this new era? Because I think there's a lot of uncertainty and people are sure how they can use it. What does it mean for them? Any advice to those?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about how people think it's going to eliminate our job, but actually I've written a lot about how I think it makes us stronger leaders. But I would just say be curious and not intimidated. Don't wait for an expert to start explaining, really just start experimenting with it. AI is really going to shape our field and reshape it and up our game. And at the core of all that is great communication, clarity, connection, and context. Okay, so those will all continue to remain the same in AI, in my opinion. So we need to be leading with purpose, use AI to scale our voice and not dilute it. And don't forget that your most powerful tool is still your ability to listen and translate.
I think that is a powerful moment to end on. But as someone that's leading the way here, anyone listening wanting to find out more information, to want to pick your brains, learn more about what you're doing, your work, or even DDN and the kind of work that they're doing there, where would you like to point everyone?
Yes, of course. My email is amlee@ddn.com, or definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to hear from all of you and learn from all of you.
Awesome. Well, I'll add a link to your LinkedIn and the DDN website. I urge everyone listening to check you out. But more than anything, just thank you for joining me in the glorious sunshine here in Palo Alto.
Thank you so much.
I think after sitting down with Amanda here in Palo Alto, one thing is very clear. The power of communication in tech isn't just about telling stories. It's about framing what's possible in a way that resonates with both business leaders and the broader public. And I think Amanda reminded us today that infrastructure isn't just a foundation for AI, Edge or HPC. It's actually an enabler for real-world outcomes that impact everything from healthcare, finance, climate science and so much more. And we also talked about how DDN supports some of the most data-intensive organizations on the planet and why it's critical to connect those capabilities to human impact. Whether it be enabling life-saving drug discovery, powering real-time fraud detection, I think Amanda brought it all to life with real stories. And in doing so, I think she underlined the importance of moving past product marketing and towards more authentic, purpose-driven narratives. And one of the standout insights from Amanda was her take on AI as a creative co-pilot. Not something to fear, but a tool to maybe elevate communication and scale strategic storytelling. So whether it is summarizing technical content, analyzing trends, or just streamlining messaging, Amanda is using AI with intention, while also keeping that human lens firmly in place. And I think with ongoing conversations around data sovereignty and trust, I think Amanda's stance on responsible innovation also couldn't be more timely. So whether you are a communicator, a technologist, or just someone looking to better understand how AI and infrastructure intersect, I think there's a lot to take away from this short episode over a coffee today. But over to you. How will you use communication to lead with clarity, empower innovation, and maybe even elevate the impact of your work? Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. So a big thank you to Amanda and also for the IT Press Tour for making today's conversation possible. And over to you. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll return again tomorrow with another guest. Bye for now.